Coverage this morning, Republicans with the Maryland Freedom Caucus are leading a lawsuit challenging what they call an illegal rush to place a gerrymandering amendment on your November ballot. The amendment was just passed by lawmakers this week, opening the door for new Democratic-leaning congressional maps. Well, Republicans argue Democrats in the General Assembly ignored state law, which requires statewide ballot questions to be certified by July 1st. They also argue the ballot language fails to properly explain the impact of a yes or no vote on the amendment. Joining us now live with how this could all play out in court, we have partner at Silverman Thompson, attorney Kurt Nachman. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Hi, Shannon.
Hey, good to see you. You know, Republicans are trying to fast track this lawsuit to ensure the case can be heard before Election Day. Do you think that can happen?
Absolutely. I think that a judge is going to want to make a decision on this lawsuit, in the next weeks, if not the next month or so, to make sure that this is rested and decided before Election Day.
And how do you expect this to go down in court? I mean, will the judge agree with Republicans that the General Assembly ignored state law or that the ballot language is confusing? I mean, which points do you think are the strongest for an actual court case?
So the timing and the notice of the ballot language is definitely an issue, but I don't think it's the winning issue or the linchpin issue. There is a case that came out of the Maryland, it was the Court of Appeals at the time, the Maryland Supreme Court a number of years ago, that said any constitutional amendment must have one single issue. Here, just based on the plain language of the constitutional amendment, there are three separate issues that are raised, and the language itself is not clear, as to what you're actually voting on. So if you think about it from a constitutional perspective, like the Maryland Supreme Court wants voters to be able to understand what it is that they're amending, because you're not getting the full language of the text. So anytime that you have an issue, it's got to be one singular issue. Here we've got three kind of distinct issues that are all together squished into this one ballot question. And so I do think that is going to be a particularly good issue for the judges to take a hard look at and decide whether or not this ballot language is going to make it on this term.
Mm-hmm. Your law partner, you were saying, was the governor's legal counsel during the last redistricting fight. Are there similarities with what played out then that you expect to see play out again?
No, this is actually kind of a follow-up on to that case all the way back from, I think it was 2018, because the judge in that instance, Judge Battaglia, retired Judge Battaglia, who's sitting in the Anne Arundel County Circuit Court as a retired judge, made a decision solely based on the Maryland Constitution. And so what this ballot language or this ballot measure is trying to do is trying to amend the Constitution to work its way around the judge's decision.
Okay. And we were talking a little bit before. I mean, looking at the history of our state that you pointed out, what should voters take away from this whole situation?
Yeah. Gerrymandering is an interesting question. If you look back as recently as 30 years ago, Maryland was a 4-4 state. And if you run down the list of the Republicans and the Democrats, you'll see some individuals who are known in the houses of Congress as people who reached across the aisle, who got things done, who worked really hard for their constituents, but it was a more measured time, I guess, and it was a less partisan time. But our state had 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats across the state. And so you have to wonder, well, how did we get to a position where we're 7-1? And if this ballot measure goes through, more likely than not 8-0, it's simply due to the fact of gerrymandering. Everyone talks about how partisan we are, but I don't think the citizens of the United States are partisan. I think it's the politicians that are partisan.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Attorney Kurt Nachman, thank you.
Thank you.
One notable topic that was not discussed during this week's special session was affordability for Marylanders, including